This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, and we are fast approaching 800 videos on the review channel. So I decided to do a bunch of reviews late in the evening. Well, also we'll get back to Transformers shortly, but this is movie reviews because it's a reviews channel. So originally, and so since as I approach 50, I thought it'd be fun to review a 1970s movie. So I picked the horror comedy Multiple Maniacs by John Waters. I think I may have already brief reviewed it way back, but here is a more in-depth review of it. Multiple Maniacs was one of Divine's first movies. John Milstead, Divine. His character inspired many things over the years. It was in Hairspray where he got mainstream appeal, but he was a universally known cult classic drag queen, and and he would play a gangster type of character who would run around in drag, dressed in gaudy outfits and act crazy out there in the city of Baltimore back in the day. So. Yeah, he was so inspired by John Waters. So inspired generations that in 1989, well, around 87 or 88, when they were writing The Little Mermaid, Milken and Rice and the producers, the directors, wanted Divine to play Ursula, the Sea Witch, and they even made Ursula the Sea Witch look and act like Divine. But he died in 1988, so they couldn't cast him. They got somebody else to play him, and they said, play like Divine would have played it. So somebody else did the Divine voice. That's why Ursula seems a lot like Divine. It's because he's supposed to be Divine. She's supposed to be Divine. I'm the Sea Witch. So there you go. Your claim to fame is immortalized in a beloved Disney cartoon. It's rated R sort of dark comedy, weird John Waters guy, immortalized in a Disney cartoon, The Little Mermaid. Which makes sense. The original Little Mermaid story, The Hans Christian Andersen, is actually pretty dark. The cartoon, not as much. Just a little bit. Just a little messed up. Multiple Maniacs was 1970, 2 years before Pink Flamingos, and in black and white. And the title cards were obviously done on literal cardstock in front of the camera, which is how a lot of early filmmakers did their stuff. They didn't have credits yet, title credits and stuff. They just put it up on cardstock. Even some of my early stuff was on cardstock. And they had title makers and other things like that later on. Nothing like this stuff. I didn't do any horror stuff. The extent of my horror stuff from when I was in the 70s and early 80s was probably more like the couch eating David, my nephew, and then the couch eating me, and the other one, and then the bug man with the underwear on his head. But other than that, yeah. Also, some of us had a cameo in Milpitas Monster. But yes, including my father. Late father was in it, in Milpitas Monster, and my sister and my half sister were in it, and their friends were in it, and I was probably in the background. They just didn't get a shot of me. Briefly in the director's cut. I'm a little kid. I'm a little kid. 6 or so. Anyway, so, but in this movie, well, I saw this movie in college. Mark's Cards introduced me to all the John Waters movies. Starting, I think I saw Pink Flamingos first. And it was before John Waters came around. It was before some of the other stuff. The claim to fame with John Waters, we met him, was much later though. We met him in 1994. He came to San Jose State for a film festival. For the film festival, there was they did a San Jose Film Festival. Cinescope, Cinefantastic or something. The hell is the name of that? Yeah, the Camera 3, Camera 1, Camera 2. Film festival. They also had I'm blanking on what it was called, but I'll remember later. But yeah, they would do this film thing there that state, and everybody would go to it because there's nothing else to do. Like 2 blocks from campus, go to the theaters. But yeah, so we would go to the theaters. John Waters happened to be doing a thing in a movie screening, and he decided to screen Polyester. At that point, we'd seen most of the movies. We'd already seen Hairspray and Pink Flamingos. I think Serial Mom as well, or was that a little later? I don't know. I think that was a little later. Cecil B. Demented was later. That had one of us in it. Not me, John. Martial arts. Also, we had no, it didn't really, but kind of. Pecker had that's the name. Yes. Yeah, Pecker. That was a later one. Those were more mainstream though. Pink Flamingos, Multiple Maniacs, Female Trouble, Desperate Living. Those were the main Dreamlander stories. Not to be confused with DreamWorks Dreamlanders. So there's a lot of backstory there. The John Waters thing was hilarious. I think I've mentioned it before. When I was doing a Pink Flamingos review, I think. But yeah, there were people that were thoroughly stoned and drunk in that, and afterward, Mark's Cards had long hair, but he's still a dude, a hairy dude, and I had a beard, and this drunk Asian man tried to pick up on us at the campus afterward. We said no, but we were flattered, but no. But yes, no. But also during the performance, there was a guy in the audience that said, "I want to show you my stuff, my assorted stuff that I could do." And then he didn't do anything, and the whole audience is like, "What?" John Waters goes, "Where's the delivery?" Like, he didn't do anything. It's like, what about his cock or something? He didn't do it. I won't do that, but he was. And we talked to John Waters at the convention. There was a convention that there was a meet and greet, basically an evening with John Waters, like the evening of Kevin Smith, but it was John Waters. Yeah, so and we see Hairspray with him. So excellent. Not Hairspray. We went to see Polyester, which was 1980 or so, a little later. Yeah, so that was being played there. That was a later movie, but it came out and they were showing it again in '94. There was a DVD box set. His later stuff went mainstream, so people wanted to get his earlier stuff. 2000, later 2000s, there's other stuff in there. There were a couple of scenes in some of his later stuff that actually inspired during the talk, which was funny. They ended up in Pecker and Cecil B. Demented and some of those other movies. The Worm Kid, the guy saying, "Oh, I want to see Kevin Costner's dick and balls," that kind of thing. The Forrest Gump sucks. That was March Earth. Gump again. No. But yes, so Multiple Maniacs, back to that. I decided to put the ranting first. It's black and white. It's hard to watch. Fortunately, it wasn't very long. It's probably 90 minutes, roughly. Something like that. Yeah, now we're in a little over 90 minutes. Now we're in 37 minutes. It has actually a more blasphemous scene than the one that they thought they saw in The Last Temptation of Christ. But yes, it's actually a more blasphemous scene. He got away with filming an extended scene of different things, the Stations of the Cross and Jesus, the guy playing Jesus, in the middle of a movie about crazy maniac killers that are drug pushers and stuff. What the hell? So he got and then he got like a church somewhere and did a scene there too. And, guerrilla filmmaking, really. He wasn't supposed to be there. He just went there. Ooh, yes, the infamous, you probably heard about on the internet, the infamous rosary bead job scene. Yes, the movie starts with, it's exactly what you think it is. It's gross. Yeah, it's definitely rated R. Definitely rated R. It's not for kids. No, yeah, no, rated R. This was the Blu-ray version, so it's slightly better print, a lot better print than the video version we had. It had. I was gonna play. Actually, I was gonna do one of those Miami like connection movie things. Not Miami Connection, but it was Hard Ticket to Hawaii or the other one. But the other one, I was going to do this other movie. It wouldn't play. Stopped in the player, wouldn't play. I don't know why. Disc is defective. Great. I don't think I paid more than $10 for it, but still. The disc was defective, it wouldn't play. So I couldn't play that, so I played this instead. It was Malibu Express is what I was going to play. Yeah, I didn't get to play that one. It wouldn't work. So here we have Multiple Maniacs. Starts out in Baltimore, in the woods, kind of near the park, I guess. There was David Lochry and the other characters. They kept their names. Mr. David, Mink Stoll. There were Vivian Pierce, all the Dreamlanders. Yeah, and almost all of them are dead. I think Mink Stoll is still alive. John Waters is still alive, but all the rest are gone. So it's weird. And Edith Massey was in it. Yeah, it's like yeah. Ew, and they're all kind of grungy, sort of. They're not hippies. They were like anti-hippies, but they're druggies and stuff. They were all into a lot of stuff. They were a mess. But they wanted to make these horror movies, so they did. Pink Flamingos being the most famous of them. Really, Hairspray is the second most famous. They even made a Broadway play out of Hairspray. And Polyester starred Tab Hunter, which was bizarre and divine. The guy from Dallas. So yeah. So yeah, this movie opens with these criminal perverts running a sort of weird, like avant-garde circus, carnival of perversion, as they call it. With these John Waters movies, we tend to misremember scenes that happened or remember them differently when they happened. Could have sworn at one point he says, "This is the bicycle seat sniffing guy. The bicycle seat sniffer. Watch him do that." He never says this in the movie. The guy there, they show a guy doing it, sniffing a bicycle seat, but they don't actually. He doesn't actually say it. He just says, "Oh, look at this perverted guy. Look at what he's doing. It's filthy. Come in." And there's a puke eater. They did say the puke eater at least twice. This is the puke eater, the heroin pusher, the heroin addict, the naked person playing Mink Stoll's daughter was Cookie Mueller, from who became famous in Pink Flamingos later on. Yeah, Cookie Mueller. Yeah, so for the chicken scene with crackers. Yeah, it's as gross as you might think it is. That scene was messed up. That was genuinely messed up. These are dark comedy horror movies. It says it's comedy here on the IMDb, but it's probably horror comedy. I would think it has horror in it. So we have your basic carnival of perversion doing perverted things, but it's all a front for them to be robbed. So people go into the carnival and then they're led into this room to see Divine, and then she basically robs them. That's their shtick. Unfortunately, Divine gets a little excited and kills one of the people they're robbing, so they have to let them go. But they did get all their stuff. I'm surprised that nobody went after them after that. But apparently, it's 1970s Baltimore, and they didn't really notice. And come on. And I also thought it was kind of... They mentioned... Because John Waters was fascinated with cults and things and bandits and things like that. So the Sharon Tate murders were going on there. But yeah, that's part of the plot of the story. They convinced the David character that he... no relation to me. It's not my nephew. That's another David. David Lochary, no relation. No, not at all. Not from Baltimore. The Divine makes him think that he was involved in the Manson murders, but out the Tate murders. I don't think that doesn't even go together, does it? Tate. When about was it said? Charles Manson case. So apparently the movie was filmed in late '69, about when the Manson murder actually came to fruition. So yeah, okay, I looked that up just now. Late '69, so that makes sense. December '69, because it was snowing at the end of the story. I don't know how long it took him to make it. But so that's what she claims that he was involved in, to bribe the main guy to be the carnival barker. Didn't she go, and then the carnival barker guy is having an affair with Mary Vivian Pierce. I think it's Mary Vivian Pierce is who that is. And he's having an affair with her, and he's like gone off to the diner to hang out with his girlfriend. But meanwhile, the Divine and the Minuteman as a Weatherman, the Watchers, Weatherman. There's literally a Weatherman from the late '60s hippie riot movements. There's one in the story, but there's actually several at the end. And they referenced that, and I thought that was pretty funny when they first did it. And so there's sort of a Watchman Weatherman guy in there. Well, he's a guy playing one. I don't know if he actually was one. Anyway, so Divine goes to look for the boyfriend dressed in his outfit, and he is accosted and raped by a couple of hooligans on the way to on the way to find the boyfriend. And after Divine is raped, the infant of Prague shows up. You got some little dude, somebody's kid, to play the infant of Prague dressed in his outfit. You can look up on the internet and find out who that actor was and what he ended up doing after that. If you want, I didn't. I think he did end up doing other. He might have been in one other John Waters movie after that, but much later when he was older. But yeah, there's this odd scene with this dressed up in the. So it's this weird sort of pseudo. Yeah, what infant of Prague? What? Infant Jesus of Prague. Catian Church. Huh. Okay, I looked it up. Catian Church. But that's where that's from. So there's a Catian Church. It's a version of. It's not Catholic. It's Catian. But yeah, the Citation of the Cross, that kind of thing. The Prague kid, nothing happens to the kid. He just leads her to the church, and then I don't know if maybe they hired like actors to be on the street and said, okay, you're gonna dress up like this, and we're not gonna tell you what the actual other stuff is going on. We're not gonna like exploit anybody or anything. No, you're just gonna you're gonna walk with this lady down the street and then stop, and then you get paid $1 or whatever it was back then, and then you go on, and nothing happens after that. I'm assuming nothing bad happened to anybody that was in this, not for real, and that he was not involved in anything after that. So, because the rest of it's pretty gross, I don't think he could watch it until he was 18. The Divine goes into the church where Mink Stoll is in there, and there's this other couple in there, and they're like making out in the church. It must have been a very free ecumenical church. Very free, sort of non-denominational, but they were playing the Stations of the Cross and everything. And here's the blasphemous part happens. So after she's been horribly accosted by the two ruffians, she has this bizarre vision of all of the passage of Jesus, the stations of some of Jesus' teachings, the bread and loaves and fishes, the cross, the station of the cross part, the supper thing, whatever, and all that in there. They got an actor, and they got a bunch of them running out in the woods doing Jesus cosplay. Earlier in the summer, apparently, and then put in the story. They look like, actually, it does look like winter. It looks like they're kind of cold out there running around, like early winter, late fall, early winter when they filmed that part. So they probably told the neighborhood, oh, they're filming it like a Jesus, play thing. Yeah, just ignore that. That's only to have the scene in the chapel, in the church, be a rosary bead job. Yeah. Oh, God. Ew. The pink stole proceeds to have sex with Divine in church on the pew. Well, no, frottaging, I guess. And there's even a sound effect about the end. Oh my goodness. Ooh, it's like, okay, this is pornographic. But done in black and white, so it's like you can't actually tell what's going on. Kinda can, but yeah. And then there's an extended scene with it's really black and white. It's not at all sensual. It's just horrific. But there's an extended scene with David and Mary Vivian Pierce naked in their room, and you don't see much of that either. The way they filmed it, they kind of letterboxed this Blu-ray version, so they cropped off anything. You see her tits. You see his tits too. So it's equal opportunity tit showing. Yeah, so they go through that, and they're going on how they're going to kill Divine, and take over, and then they proceed to go over to the Divine's daughter's house. Divine's daughter is just a Cookie. They're roughly the same age, but she's playing her daughter. They did that later with Ming Stoll playing her daughter in Desperately, or Female Trouble, I guess. Yeah, one of those. The daughter was the other one in the other one. So they're like, the idea that they can't. Yeah, no, that would be silly. But yeah. So he goes to the house. He finds out that the Tate thing wasn't real. That it was actually the Mansons that were caught because there's a newspaper on the table. Other things happen. The daughter is eventually killed by accident by Mary Vivian Pierce, who runs in and thinks it was the wife, the Divine, because she just didn't know. No. Parable about 38 specials and gun use and thrown in there. And there's more of that later with the Weathermen who go after Divine. But the oh man, this is what so yeah, so the guy comes in and so Divine comes back and discovers that the two are there after they've disposed of the body of the girl and tied up the Weatherman guy and put him behind the couch. They don't notice the guy's behind the couch, even though they totally would. They just don't notice. It's not that big a room. But then there's a struggle, and the David character is killed. And whether she gets a hatchet, she gets a knife. She knifes him. And then proceeds to somehow get through his rib cage and rip out his heart and eat it. Yum, yum, yum. It's obviously like livers and steaks from a butcher shop. It's really fake, but really gross. She starts frothing at the mouth and going insane. Everybody's dead because they killed each other. Divine's alive. She's going crazy. She goes mad. She goes insane. And hallucinates that a giant lobster, the infamous Lobstora, giant lobster, comes in and fucks her. Because, of course, that would happen in a John Waters movie. So some Cronenbergian stuff happens. Lovecraft and Cronenberg happens in there. In that scene. More Cronenberg in there. So, yeah, Lobster takes off. Then she, goes mad and goes stealing cars and stuff. Wanders around in the snow. Because now it's snowing. It was raining earlier during the church scene, but now it's snowing. And she busts up a car that's sitting out there. Not sure why she just breaks a car, but she does. I'm assuming that they used an abandoned car, unless they decided to thrash a real one. Well, back in the day, they salt the roads back east, so in the snow area. So it's probably a screwed up car that was just on the side of the road. But yeah, he's vandalizing a car. But then he goes crazy and runs through town, causing a riot, so they can spoof the Watts riots. He's causing a riot. This leads to him getting gunned down by the Weathermen and the vets that show up together, even though they probably wouldn't work together. And the vets and they're holding up their guns, going ah. And yeah, an anti-gun thing, but pro-gun thing. If you're into that, then you would take it either way. Take it either way that the gun nuts kill the monster divine, but it could be the other way in that they shouldn't have. Then it would be anti. So John Waters is like, I'm just gonna do this weird thing. Make your own mind up. How it ends? It ends when they're shot. Divine has been in movies. He's been shot, electrocuted, blasted. I think only in Pink Flamingos does he actually survive. I think in that one, yeah, he's gonna go to another town or something, and I think he does. Yeah, because he tars and feathers Connie and Raven Marble in that movie. I think he gets away with it. He walks away. To go to another town, Boise, Idaho. Yeah, I think they got away with it at the end because he ate dog poop in that infamous scene in Pink Flamingo. I think we've already talked about that one. But there's a lot of gross stuff going on. Yeah, don't eat dog poop, and yeah, don't do that. Yuck. But yeah, this was Multiple Maniacs, and like the watched, unboxed, or reviewed guy, I'm not going to show you any footage from it. He probably would discuss it too, but huge footage. I'm not going to do that, unlike him. Yeah. Also, yeah, it's a gross movie, but I already knew what it was going to end up like. Yeah, so there's it doesn't actually say bicycle seats never. So that's my review, I guess. It's gross and sick and definitely rated R if not X. So yeah, you know, if you got grossed out, it's a cult classic from 1970. I think Pink Flamingos is a little better in terms of its style. Yeah, but Desperate Living is his most ambitious, I think. Hairspray is his breakout into modern movies, not to be confused with the Amanda Bynes Hairspray remake from a few years ago. They're different. The John Waters one is different from that. The remake is modeled after the play, the Broadway play, so it's a little different. And of course, I've also forgot Crybaby, which was another movie that he made from the 80s, which had a young Ricky Lake in it. Ricky Lake went on to be a TV personality, TV host. Yep. So yeah, so there's a lot of interesting casting in there. Yeah, I think she was in her 20s. She's playing a teenager. Well, that's okay. They do that a lot in movies. Yeah, the funny thing about the John Waters movies is when they were first introduced to me in college, my father kept coming in and I was watching them in the living room because it was like back then I had them in the living room. I had a bigger TV in the living room. I was watching them in there, and I was watching Desperate Living. And he's like, "Oh, I remember that." Really? Funny. Yeah, we had like an early version of this. Yeah, we saw it on VHS years ago. Oh, wow. Oh, and then later on, I was watching Pink Flamingos. I remember that one too. That's the one where that guy ate dog poop. Yeah, yeah. Gross. But yeah. Well, I didn't like that chicken part. That was just gross. Now, there's a chicken part. It says in the script, Cookie fucks chicken. Yeah, gross. Smashes chicken. No, don't abuse and kill animals in your movie. It's messed up. Don't do that. But other than that, oh shit. Oh. Yeah, it's fun if it's Lobstoro, the clearly giant mechanical lobster they built to hump Divine. That's okay because it's not real. It's not a lobster. It's a big prop. I wonder what happened to that thing. It's in Sean Waters' room somewhere. He kept it. Oh, what's funny is there's continuity error though. When Lobstora shows up, well, it's a hallucination, but still, he showed up, but they got everyone else out of the room that was supposed to be dead around Divine, so that when the lobster leaves, they're all gone. Yeah. Wait a minute, where'd they go? What's impressive that they could lie still for long enough, pretending they were dead, for a good amount of time, actually. Well, they were all the Dreamlanders. 16mm film blown up to 35, roughly. 32, I think, probably actually. But then blown up a little more to put it on Blu-ray, which kind of loses something. Where's the Criterion version? Yeah, a little bit blanched out in parts, but that's probably what it was like. Yeah, really gross. Gross. Yeah. Not for the faint at heart, definitely a cult classic. Yeah. Desperate Living and the others are a little better. But this was a good start. Actually, Eat Your Makeup is also interesting. I think that's on YouTube. But they'll never release that on DVD, at least at this point, because there's a lot of songs. Also, a hag in a black leather jacket. It's another one of his shorts from back in the day. Saw that too, but it also cannot be released in DVD because songs all over it. Back in the day, copyrighted songs you couldn't get a copyright to. Yeah, paying the royalties to put the songs up would cost more than it would to just not. It appears that for this one, for the Criterion Collection, they did get the royalties for the songs that were used in it, which is interesting. Even though I doubt that the song people watched this movie, but yeah, well, if they did, studios, man. The Rosary Beach. Yeah. Anyway, oh.